Can I play piano for a meal? Insane talent no one saw coming at 3 a.m. The clock struck 3, and the air felt electric, humming with a low buzz as if the universe held its breath. In the heart of the city, on a deserted corner wrapped in shadows, something extraordinary was about to unfold. The moon glowed brighter than ever, casting eerie shadows that flickered as if they were alive, and on that very corner stood a worn-out piano. Abandoned, but somehow whispering secrets of the past, it beckoned to the night. A figure emerged from the darkness, a young girl named Mia, her wild hair dancing around her face like a whirlwind. She was a mere slip of a thing, with dirt-smudged knees, but her eyes held an intensity that made the night seem alive. The chill of the night nibbled at her skin, and yet there was warmth brewing inside her as her fingers trembled above the piano keys. Could she really play? They said she had talent, but no one had ever witnessed it so close. A few curious onlookers gathered, drawn by a magnetic pull. Mia's heart raced. The city seemed to pause, and for a moment, it felt as though the world was waiting for her next move. Would she reveal her secret? The same secret that kept her up at night. A mix of fear and excitement battling within her chest. Suddenly, the first note shattered the silence, a pure and haunting sound that floated through the air, making eardrums vibrate and hearts quicken. A bizarre melody unfolded, a twisted lullaby that wrapped around the listeners, enticing them to step closer. Some gasped, others exchanged bewildered glances. It was beautiful and strange, like a vivid dream spiraling out of control. But as Mia played, something shifted. The air thickened, charged with an unsettling tension. The sweet notes turned into an echo of desperation. Shadows stretched longer, and whispers filled the corners of the street. What is she doing? Someone murmured, mouth agape. That tune, it feels wrong. That pulse of unease rippled through the crowd, leaving an unsettling knot in their stomachs. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Mia felt the tension build as she poured her soul into the song. The crowd was captivated. They were both terrified and amazed. The piano seemed to resonate with her fears, revealing hidden stories, untold sacrifices. What was she channeling? Each note became a heartbeat, each pause a gasp. Would she finish the song, or would something darker emerge from within? As she played on, a flicker of movement caught her eye. A shadow darted across the street, darker than the night itself. Was it watching her? The music began to falter, trailing off into an echo of uncertainty. Then silence fell like a heavy blanket. What waited beyond the shadows? The answer hung in the air, waiting for someone brave enough to uncover it. A heartbeat of silence enveloped the street, and just as the last lingering note faded into the night, a chill raced through the crowd. They stood frozen, eyes darting to the corner where the shadow had disappeared. Mia felt the weight of their collective gaze, and her heart hammered against her ribs. "Did you see that?" whispered a voice from the back. The tension was palpable, becoming a tangible force that twisted around Mia like a rope. She clenched her fists, fighting to regain her composure. But the feeling gnawed at her. Something was wrong. With a deep breath, Mia launched into another melody, this one more frenetic than the last. It flowed from her like an uncontrollable river, wild and unpredictable. The notes slipped from her fingers, weaving together a tapestry of urgency. But in her mind, the shadows danced, dark figures lurking, watching, waiting. The fear strangled her music, mixing beauty with dread. A woman at the front stepped back, her face pale. "Stop!" she shouted, cutting through the night like a knife. "You're not supposed to play that." Why? What did she mean? Mia's fingers hesitated on the keys, her confidence wavering. She scanned the crowd, searching for answers. Fear rolled through their expressions, something raw and primal they couldn't hide. As if triggered, the shadows surged forward, morphing into shapes that shifted and twisted. The piano rattled under Mia's touch. The once inviting melodies turned into echoes of chaos, and Mia lost herself in a storm of sound and emotion. "Get away from her!" shouted a man, stepping forward, arm raised. The crowd's whispers grew frantic, each voice laced with panic. "It's a curse." Mia's heart raced with confusion. A curse? She had never thought her gift could be something so sinister. The music weighed heavy in her chest. What darkness had she unleashed? Suddenly, a gust of wind whipped around them, carrying a whisper as soft as silk but sharp as glass, slashing through the air. "Play on." Mia's eyes widened. Was it the piano speaking? Or the shadows? The command wrapped around her, holding her still. She could feel the weight of their stares, their hopes and fears intertwining with her own. Compelled, she began to play again. A desperate melody that resonated deep within her. But a chill ran up her spine. This note wasn't hers. This was something far older, something fierce and unyielding. "What is this?" someone yelled, panic surging through the crowd. "Stop her!" She could barely hear their cries over the crescendo of her music, threatening to pull her under, drowning her in emotion. The shadows leaned closer, swirling around her like a tempest. A figure emerged from the depths, cloaked in darkness, face obscured. Its presence chilled her to the bone. "You must see, little one. You've opened a door." Mia strained to look closer, squinting through the flickering shadows. Above her piano, ethereal hands, almost ghostly, reached out, drawn by the haunting melody. They hovered over her, waiting for the right moment. "What door?" Her voice trembled. The words barely escaped her lips, barely heard over the raging symphony she was conjuring. The figure leaned closer, voice a whisper that sent shivers down her spine. "The door to your greatest fears and desires." Mia's heart raced. The ground beneath her felt unsteady. What had she created? And who was this being that hovered just out of sight but ever present, waiting for her next move? As the music swelled, a choice loomed before her: continue playing and risk everything she knew, or stop and face the darkness she unwittingly unleashed. A decision had to be made. Time was running out. In that split second, an electric pulse coursed through her fingertips, an invitation to either embrace or escape the fate that awaited her. But did she have the courage to confront it? And then, as the last note fell from her hands, she knew she wasn't alone anymore. What if the shadows were calling her back? What if she had struck a deal without realizing it? The air crackled with tension, and the answer was just beyond the darkness, waiting to be revealed. The moment the last note faded, a breath held in the crowd burst like an overfilled balloon. Gasps rippled through the gathering as the figure shrouded in darkness shifted, its form fluid and menacing. Colors seemed to drain from the world, leaving an ominous gray as the figure stepped closer, drawn to Mia like a moth to a flame. "Little one," it crooned, voice dripping with honeyed malice. Each word slithered into her thoughts, curling around her mind and squeezing tight. "Did you really think you could summon the depths without consequence?" Mia's pulse raced, her breath quickening. Shadows writhed at her feet, as if excavating the ground beneath her. The piano trembled. Its surface hummed with energy, every key beckoning her to play again, to unleash whatever darkness had been stirred. "Stop!" She didn't know if she was shouting to the shadow, the crowd, or even to herself. "What do you want?" "Desire," it replied, the word echoing in her bones. "Fear. You've awakened my kin. And they hunger for the music that flows from your soul. They crave what you hold dear." "No." Panic surged inside her. She could feel a vortex of emotions swirling around her, threatening to drown her. The thoughts of all she could lose spiraled: her family, her friends, her passion for music. A voice suddenly tore through the cacophony as the man from before stepped between her and the figure. "She doesn't know what she's doing. She's just a girl." His eyes were wild, hands trembling as he pointed at the figure. "You need to leave her alone." The figure chuckled, a sound so chilling that a ripple of fear passed through the crowd. "But that's the beauty of it. She has the gift. And with gifts come burdens." The man's determination faltered, but Mia felt the flames of anger ignite within her. She wouldn't let fear consume her. "I want to play for you." The words burst out, fierce and defiant. "Will you not?" The shadows surged forward, a pitiful attempt to grasp at her. "You already have." Every note you played opened the floodgates. Do you think your defiance can erase what you've done? A chilling wind howled, as if mocking her resolve. Around her, the crowd shifted uneasily, eyes wide with dread. They murmured among themselves, questioning this power, this curse she had unwittingly unearthed. Yet in that storm, a flicker of realization sparked within her. She could turn this back, she could seize control. Mia inhaled, feeling ice saturate her lungs, but what rose with it was a sense of clarity. I created this music. I can rewrite it. The crowd fell silent, waiting. Hope lingered, hesitating on the edges of despair. Rewrite it? A brave thought. The figure's voice dripped with mockery, its silhouette oscillating between malicious and intrigued. But do you have the strength to face what it will unveil? Mia's heart danced between fear and determination. If she truly held the power within her, it was time to wield it. Let me show you, she said softly, as she placed her fingers back onto the keys. The piano resonated in direct response, vibrating beneath her palms like it understood what was at stake. The crowd leaned in, breath held as she began to play, not a frantic rush, but purposeful, deliberate. A new melody poured forth. It was a declaration of strength, resilience, and choice. As each note resonated, the shadows waned, swirling less aggressively, unsure of this new direction. But as the melody enveloped them, a scream pierced the night. It echoed from the depths, a bone-chilling sound that erased all tranquility. The figure recoiled, momentarily distracted, but the shadows writhed eagerly behind it, thrumming with restless energy. Suddenly Mia realized then, the shadows were not just listening, they were gathering, waiting for the moment of exposure. Mia, look out! Someone yelled. But the warning came too late. In that split second, the figure lunged forward, dark tendrils reaching out to snatch her from reality. The music faltered. For a heartbeat, all hung in the balance as Mia's world threatened to darken completely. The shadows pressed in. Was this the end of her melody? Or was it just the beginning of something far more dangerous? All at once, she felt the air twist again. And deep within her, another force awakened, something perhaps even darker than the shadows creeping in. The moment the figure lunged, time slowed. Mia's heart raced, each beat echoing in her ears like a haunting percussion. She felt the cold tendrils brush against her skin, invasive and possessive. Just as panic threatened to swallow her whole, that flicker inside ignited a raw, primal energy surged through her, and the piano, her sanctuary, became an extension of her will. With a deep breath, she slammed her fingers down, igniting a furious sequence of notes. The air shimmered as barriers between worlds blurred, the heavy shadows buckling under the soaring melody. The figure reeled, shock evident even in its malevolence. You think a song can save you? It hissed, dark whispers curling around the edges of reality. I don't need saving, she shot back, frustration fueling her strength. She was no longer an ignorant girl in a concert hall. She was a creator. Each note she played transformed into a weapon, a shield against the encroaching darkness. The music wasn't just a melody, it was a defiance. The crowd, once frozen in fear, began to murmur, their energy shifting. They felt the power of her intent, that music could ignite change. But still the shadows surged. Tendrils braided together like serpents, weaving towards her, seeking an opportunity to silence her. But Mia felt their fear, she recognized the shadows' hunger. They were not merely traps of malice. They were aspects of her own fears, her own insecurities. So she turned that fear into strength, channeling everything that made her tremble into her song. Each note became a declaration, ringing out with assertiveness. Keep going, Mia, the man shouted, his presence now a beacon among the frightened crowd. You have it. Don't stop. Fueled by his words, she increased the tempo, lifting the melody higher, almost sacred. The song took a turn, shifting to a brighter key. It became a beacon of hope, casting away the dreariness that choked the space. Waves of vibrancy cascaded around her, colors flashing back into view, sunlight seeping through shadows. But the figure was relentless. It screamed, a feral sound that echoed through the air, causing the piano's wood to splinter, the keys to crack under the pressure. You mistake your arrogance for strength. You cannot control what you do not understand. Watch me, Mia responded, her voice steady above the chaos. and with one final crescendo, she poured her heart into the last note, allowing every ounce of fear and power to merge to rise. The piano resonated with a tempest of sound, a burst of brassy brilliance. The shadows floundered, recoiling, confused by the intensity. She knew she was standing on the precipice. Success or ruin rested in this moment. Then, as if the very essence of darkness could no longer bear her spirit, it shrieked and fragmented, dissolving in a rush of wind. For one fleeting moment, everything was at peace, the echoes of her victorious music thrumming in the air, palpable and liberating. But then she felt it beneath her triumph. A tendril of cold crept in. In the moment of victory, a deeper truth lurked, a reminder. The darkness hadn't vanished. It had only retreated. Mia. The man's shout cut through the calm, urgency returning to his voice. It's coming back. You can't let up. She glanced toward him, a chill creeping down her spine as the remaining shadows reformed, gathering strength. There was something darker awakening, a deeper pit of power that beckoned, more malevolent than before. What truly lay beneath the surface, where this dark symphony had begun? Would her music be enough to confront the sinister force lurking in the shadows? As she prepared to play again, her fingers suspended over the keys, a revelation hit her. To survive this darkness would require not just music, but an understanding of the true nature of her gift, and in that moment of realization, the crowd fell silent. The air thickened, and Mia faced the onslaught with a trembling resolve, ready to confront what had always been written in the melody of her very existence. Would she embrace the full scope of her power, or would her doubts trap her once more? The answer loomed just beyond the dark veil. A cold shiver swept through the hall as the last notes from the piano lingered in the air, crackling with untapped energy. Shadows twisted like smoke, pulsing with a dark rhythm, enveloping Mia in an even tighter grip. Panic clawed at her throat as she confronted the twisted edges of her reality. This wasn't just a performance. It was a battle for her very soul. With intense determination, she forced her fingers to hover above the keys. Each moment pressed heavy against her chest, as if the weight of countless whispers wrapped around her like chains. What if I can't do this? A voice from the depths of her mind taunted, a reminder of every fear she'd buried deep. But then she remembered the rush of power, the way the music transformed her, connected her with the crowd, made the shadows quiver. They'd felt her energy, a fierce light, a sharpened resolve. And if she held that feeling within her, she could confront the darkness again. The crowd stirred restlessly, each face etched with bewilderment, their collective breath hitching as they sensed the shift. Mia glanced at the man, the one who had rallied her spirit moments before. His eyes blazed with fierce conviction, igniting an ember of hope within her. Face it, Mia. They're afraid of you, he called out, his voice cutting through the uncertain air. You're the light in this storm. With fervor surging through her veins, she began to play, her fingers dancing wildly over the keys. The sounds surged like a tide, powerful and unstoppable. Each chord resonated with defiance, forcing her fear into the depths of the music and transforming it into a battle cry. The shadows writhed in response, their sinister forms distorting and faltering against her melody. The figure at the forefront shimmered, its grotesque features twisting in anger. You think you can rely on mere sound? You know nothing of the power you dabble with. It screeched, tentacles thrashing violently as it struggled against her music. But Mia wasn't listening to the threats. She pushed forward, pouring every ounce of rage, sorrow, and determination into the piano. The crowd began to sway, their energy syncing with her beats. Each note became a pulse, a heartbeat that countered the darkness. Color began to seep into the bleached shadows, swirling and tangling in beautiful chaos. Feel it, she screamed, and the playful innocence of the melody turned to stark intensity. The walls vibrated with the revolution of sound, pulling every tremor, every fear toward her, feeding her power. Suddenly, darkness spiked and lashed out, the figures coiling like whips, catching the edges of the music, intent on dragging her back into despair. As one tendril lashed across her arm, she felt the cold burn. It seared through her senses. A gasp escaped her lips as blinding pain jolted her. But it was then an epiphany struck. This isn't just my fight, she roared over a crashing crescendo. It's ours. The crowd, propelled by her words, echoed her energy. Hundreds of voices surged forward, chanting against the shadows, drowning out the cold fear. A wave of heat and light pulsed outward, enveloping her, giving her strength. The piano seemed to resonate louder, the keys under her fingers glowing with newfound brightness. With one final surge, Mia's music rose to a breathtaking overture, a sweeping force that became an unbreakable bond between her and the crowd. The shadows screamed, thrashing aggressively, yet they were faltering, slipping, unraveling under the strength of their shared resolve. But just as she felt the tide turning, something shifted in the air. It wasn't over. As the last shadows writhed in protest, new shapes emerged from the depths, darker and more oppressive than before. Mia. The man breathed, his face paling, eyes wide with horror. What did you awaken? She paused, music trembling under her fingers, dread pooling deep within her. What had she unleashed? The new dark figures loomed ominously in the distance, a forbidding harbinger of trials yet to come. Would she stand her ground against this newfound threat, or would her music falter? Under the weight of true darkness? The answer waited, lurking in the shadows, just like her own fears. The air crackled with tension, vibrating like the strings of her piano. The new figures whispered secrets only they understood, their forms shifting and rippling as if they were made of pure night. Mia's heart raced, the drum of fear echoing in her ears. She clenched her jaw, the sharp bite of adrenaline pushing her forward. Keep playing. The man shouted again, his voice a lifeline amidst the encroaching dread. Don't stop. Mia cast a frantic glance at the crowd just as their faces twisted from determination to outright horror. It was as if she could see the dark shapes preying on their fear, sucking the resolve straight from their hearts. She had awakened something worse. Their pallid skin and wide eyes reflected the terror creeping in, and she realized she wasn't just fighting for herself anymore, she was fighting for them too. With shaking hands, Mia took a deep breath, forcing out the freezing grip of panic. Her fingers hovered, then struck the keys once more. The music surged, weaving between the shadows like light through fog, each note grounding her, reminding her of the power she still held. Simon, she whispered to herself. You can do this. The shadows recoiled momentarily. They sensed the shift in energy, felt the collective pulse of the crowd reshaping the atmosphere. But then one shadow lunged forward, gleaming with malice, and Mia felt the air thicken. It was more than a physical assault, it was an ink-black wave of despair crashing against her. Give in. It howled, its voice a cacophony of tortured cries. You can't win. But Mia was done with surrender. She dug deeper, channeling the emotions that had plagued her for far too long: fear, vulnerability, rage stubbornly caught in the web of her spirit. Every keystroke became a forward thrust against the encroaching darkness. The sound turned wild and feral, echoing with her truth. The crowd gathered strength, feeding off her defiance. Fight back. They shouted, their voices mingling with the music, creating a powerful tapestry of sound. In that moment, she could feel their collective will weaving together, binding them against the creeping shadows. With renewed force, she played a haunting melody that swirled through the hall, penetrating the very core of the dark figures. They shrieked, writhed, and began to dissolve, the colors of her vibration scattering their form. But just as hope flickered, something vast and insurmountable materialized behind them, a lurking presence that dwarfed the last of the shadows. This was larger, scarier, its essence oozing with ancient power. Mia, the man's voice trembled, falling to a whisper. You've awakened the darkness. Mia's heart sank. The term felt visceral, like a punch to the gut. She had thought her battle was with shadows, but this was an entity, pulsating with pure evil. Only it seemed to thrive on the music she played. Stop. The newly emerged entity commanded. The air vibrated with authority, each word striking like thunder. You think you can control the very music of the cosmos? You are naive. Breathless, Mia's resolve flickered like a dying candle. Was this truly the end? Just then, she heard a voice in her mind, not the dark one, but her own lingering self-doubt. You can't do this. But in that moment, she turned it into a battle cry instead. Watch me. With every ounce of defiance, she ran her fingers over the keys, setting off a series of notes so powerful they wrapped around her like a shield. The strains of music became visible, swirling through the hall as vibrant strands of light. Suddenly, the figure lunged forward, a mass of claws and teeth, intent on snuffing out her light. Mia's world narrowed to a singular focus, her music against this monstrous malevolence, her strength, their only hope. Can she withstand this new onslaught, or will the darkness prove stronger than her cord? The answer teetered on the brink, wrapped in the melody, a forbidden harmony yet to be uncovered. Mia's fingers danced over the keys with frenetic energy, a spiraling tempest of sound and emotion. The music surged, a brilliant counterpoint against the dark figure looming above her. Every note she struck felt like a desperate act of rebellion, pushing back against the relentless tide of despair that threatened to obliterate everything she fought for. "Keep pushing, Mia." The man's whisper echoed through her mind, a gentle but urgent reminder of her purpose. She glanced at the faces in the crowd, each one etched with fear, but also a flicker of hope. This was the critical moment. Trust surged between them, binding their fates together. The grotesque entity snarled, and with each movement, ripples of darkness eclipsed the light around it. "You think music can save you?" it roared. "Your notes are but a whisper against a storm." But Mia wouldn't cower. With a fierce determination, she channeled every ounce of her fear into the melody, transforming the anguish within her into a triumphant anthem. The sounds erupted, twisting and twining through the air like a bolt of lightning piercing the night. It pulsed with life, colorful and defiant, striking at the heart of the darkness. Suddenly, the apparition faltered, its form shaking as if caught in a violent wind. For a brief moment, a crack appeared in its dark shell. Mia's heart raced faster than ever, fueled by the prospect of victory. But then the shadows roared back, a scream of rage that rattled the very walls around them. Enough of this charade. The entity surged forward, a monstrous beast intent on crushing her light. The crowd gasped, a collective breath drawn sharply, fear flooding the air like poison. Mia felt the weight of that fear, and it settled like an anchor in her gut. "Don't back down," she shouted, her voice anchoring them, stimulating the marrow in her bones. She kept playing, the melody shifting into a raw, primal scream. The keys had become an extension of her spirit, each note intertwining with her heartbeat. The entity collided with her music, a violent clash that sent shockwaves radiating through the hall. It howled, the noise piercing through Mia's melody, an unsettling disruption that clawed at her sanity, seeking to drown her in darkness. But just as despair threatened to sweep over her, a garish light erupted from the crowd, a single note held firm, glowing bright as it merged with Mia's music. Her eyes widened as she recognized the man's voice, harmonizing with her, elevating the sound, weaving a tapestry of unmatched strength. Suddenly, she wasn't alone. The crowd joined in, a chorus of voices igniting the air with their belief, their solidarity wrapping around her like a cocoon of resilience. Their unity transformed the hall. The shadows shrank back, their forms distorting in the powerful glow of human spirit. But the darkness wasn't ready to give up. With a furious sweep, it lashed out, tendrils of black smoke trying to snuff out the burgeoning light. "Your harmony is weak. I will consume you all," it roared. The air trembled, filled with the potential for destruction. Mia felt the sudden shift. Their strength together pulsed in time with her frantic beating heart. They were at a crossroads. With everything hanging in the balance behind the veil of darkness, she had a choice: given to despair or erupt into something greater. "Now!" Mia shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. She hammered an unyielding chord that resonated with every fiber of her being. The resulting wave expanded outward, crashing against the shadows like a tsunami. Would that singular moment be enough to push back the abominable creature? Time hung thick and heavy, the fragile veil between light and darkness swinging precariously. All eyes were riveted on the confrontation, breaths held tight like strings at the moment before they play. And just as the chorus reached a fever pitch, a new sound emerged, in eerie silence that felt like the calm before the storm. What awaited Mia in this weightless void? Could this unexpected pause be the turning point she so desperately needed, or was it the harbinger of a far more profound despair? The silence pressed in, thick and oppressive. Mia could almost taste it, a metallic tang on her tongue mingling with the electric anticipation that hung in the air. She felt vulnerable, exposed in this void where no enemy voice or flicker of hope echoed back. The shadows pulsed around her, waiting judging, like dark specters lurking on the edge of a cliff, eager to plunge into the depths. Then, like an arrow loose from a bow, every sound returned at once. The crowd released a collective gasp, blending into a horrified symphony. Whispers danced through the air, uncertainty rippling among the onlookers. What was happening? The moment of tension reached its breaking point. "Keep going," someone shouted, a desperate voice laced with fervor. It sliced through the confusion, reigniting the fire within Mia. She took a deep breath, her heart racing wildly as she forged ahead. The keys welcomed her touch, begging for release from the silence. With one bold stroke, she struck the piano with an urgency born from panic. The sound exploded, every note bursting forth with an energy fueled by fear and defiance. It was a clarion call, a rallying cry wrapped in melody. The entity reeled from the impact, the shadows shifting and swirling frantically, unable to absorb the vibrancy of Mia's music in that moment. The darkness began to fragment, fissures cracking through its obsidian surface. Each note she played resonated with truth, a counterpoint to the malevolence that sought to smother her spirit. But then it came an unnerving pulse from the entity. It retaliated with a low rumble, a sound that could only be described as a twisted echo of Mia's music, perverting every beautiful chord she struck. The waves of sound rippled through the crowd, who trembled under the oppressive weight of despair. Mia faltered, doubt creeping in. Were they strong enough? Could they withstand this onslaught? Panic shot through her veins. But then she heard the man's voice again, cutting through the darkness. "Play for us, Mia. We believe in you." The words surged like flames rekindling a dying fire, filling her with renewed vigor. With a renewed sense of purpose, she unleashed a furious flurry of notes, each one spiraling upward like a phoenix rising from ash. The crowd joined in again, lifting their voices higher, merging their chants into a vortex of sound, a living, breathing entity of light and hope. The shadows writhed in agony. "Stop!" it roared, its voice cracking under the weight of their union. Yet their resonance only grew stronger, swelling to a deafening crescendo that made the walls shake. The walls of the hall began to tremble, and Mia could feel the very foundation shift beneath her. But in the thick of this uprising, something shifted again. From within the shadows, something darker slithered forth. A wretched scream threaded itself through the music, capturing their collective breaths. It was chilling, like frozen fingers clutching at Mia's throat, trying to choke off the harmony they so desperately needed. "Don't let it in," she cried, a desperate plea. The gripping fear clawed at her as the entity fought back harder. Darker tendrils stretching toward them, reaching for possibility, feeding on their hesitation. Time itself felt suspended in that moment as Mia and the crowd strained against the approaching void, the darkness looming large. Would their bond be enough to drown out its insatiable hunger? Or were they merely delaying the inevitable? As she pushed harder, the last note trembling on the edge, Mia felt the tension snap. With one bold strike, she played a chord brighter than the sun, and everything shifted. What would emerge from this clash of light and dark? Would they find the courage to face what lay on the other side? Or would it consume them whole? The chord resonated, vibrating through the very bones of the hall. It pierced the darkness, a blinding light in a world suffocated by shadows. Mia's heart raced. She could feel the energy of the question echoing through her like a pulse, and the crowd surged behind her, emboldened by the shift. But the entity was not defeated yet. A thick fog began to envelop the hall, drowning out the music with dense negativity. It crept along the ground, curling around Mia's ankles, a cold grip that made her skin crawl. Every ounce of hope battled against a rising tide of despair, and Mia felt her confidence waning. "Keep going," someone yelled from the back, their voice sharp and clear, breaking through the haze. It ignited the embers of determination within her. She glanced at the crowd, fear etched across their faces, but deep in their eyes, an unyielding spark of belief. That spark fed her hunger to fight back. Mia closed her eyes, drowning out the darkness swirling around her. She focused on the piano, the keys beckoning her as if they sensed the battle raging within. A breath, steady and filled with fire. She unleashed herself onto the keys again. A wild dance of sound that seemed to take on a life of its own. The music soared, notes climbing into the very rafters, mingling with the chaos. The crowd responded, their voices melding into a chorus that underpinned her melody. The harmony surged, breaking through the dread like a lance-piercing flesh. Each note seemed to peel away the layers of fear, unraveling the fog encircling them. Together, they were a force, a union against the suffocating void. But the shadows wouldn't relent. A howling wind swept through the hall, the sound a cacophony of rage and sorrow. You think this can save you? It mocked, twisting Mia's beautiful notes into grotesque, distorted echoes. It was trying to mimic her voice, twisting her identity into something vile. No, she shouted, a raw determination boiling to the surface. With each keystroke, she poured her soul into the music, desperation fueling her. She played as if every note might extinguish the darkness, as if her very existence depended on it. The tendrils writhed, recoiling from her defiance. Just as it seemed the darkness might regroup, a sudden crack reverberated through the hall. The shadow seemed to falter for a moment, a frozen gasp escaping its form. Mia opened her eyes to a startling vision. The fissures growing larger, breaking through the darkness like shards of glass catching the sun. The crowd erupted, their voices igniting again, a rallying cry intertwining with her melody. The energy surged as hope washed over them like a wave. Each note her lifeline, each scream a boost of adrenaline. But even in the eye of this storm, Mia felt a sliver of doubt claw at her heart. Can we fight it together? She whispered, her voice nearly lost in the frenzy. Together. They shouted back, a collective promise illuminating the fear in their hearts. In that moment, Mia knew the answer. They would not bow down to despair. The shadows recoiled, twisting one last time as Mia slammed down her hands, playing with abandon. This time she wouldn't stop. She would play until the shadows turned to dust and the light washed over them. But as the last notes rang across the hall, a flicker of darkness lingered. Was it truly defeated? In the back of her mind, a chilling question arose. What if this was only the beginning? What if something darker lay hidden, waiting to rise from the ashes of their fight? The air crackled with the tension of uncertainty. What awaited them beyond the veil of shadows? With her heart pounding, she took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever lay ahead. The darkness roared, a ferocious reminder of the battle fought. Yet Mia could feel the strength in the air, in the voices around her. They had pushed back this malevolence. Shadows shivered, flickering like candles in a storm, but Mia's heart raced with an unyielding defiance. The figure looming above began to flicker, its form unstable like a mirage. You think this is over? It hissed, anger weaving through its voice. Mia shook her head, sucking in a breath. She was done with despair. She focused on the piano, fingers hovering over the keys. There was unfinished business, the remnants of fear still swirling in the air, but she felt something shift within her, a fierce determination. I won't stop, she declared, each word laced with fire. The crowd echoed her spirit, a chorus of strength fueling her resolve. And then she jumped back into the music, unleashing a wild torrent of notes, vibrant and bright. Each chord cracked like thunder, tearing at the shadows that still hung in the air. The melody soared, lifting the spirits of those around her until it felt like they were one beating heart. The figure writhed, struggling to maintain form under the waves of sound. You think your noise can silence us? It screeched, but it was faltering. The tendrils of darkness shivered and shrunk back, retreating under the relentless assault of her music. Together, someone shouted, and Mia felt a wave of warmth flood through her. The crowd swelled with energy, their voices rising and sinking with her melody, becoming an extension of her will, one powerful, unified front. In that moment, the hall transformed. Light and sound blended together, creating a dazzling atmosphere filled with hope, a living pulse that countered the encroaching shadows. Mia's fingers flew across the keys, notes cascading like rain. Don't stop. The call rang out. She was not fighting alone anymore. They were sharing the burden of their fears. The shadows screamed, their voice nearing a breaking point as Mia focused her energy, pouring out every shred of love, every heartbeat, every inch of her soul into this crescendo. It turned into a battle cry, defiance embodied. With another powerful stroke, the darkness twisted in agony, the figure shrinking, trembling like wilted leaves in a storm. No. We will not be undone, it bellowed, but the shadows thrashed wildly, their grasp on reality losing strength. The figure collapsed in on itself before exploding outward, shattering into 1,000 fragments, scattered like dust in the wind. The shadows recoiled as light flooded the hall once more, illuminating every corner. Mia gasped, breathless from the effort. The piano hummed under her fingers, alive and free. The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices swelling with triumph. They had faced the darkness together, and together they'd won. But a stillness settled over them, a weighty silence that seemed to stretch in the aftermath. Mia looked around at the faces lit with disbelief alongside joy. She scanned the crowd, the man who had encouraged her now standing at the forefront, his eyes wide but glimmering with unshed tears. Then it hit her, the darkness was gone. But at what cost? Did they truly end it, or were there remnants still lurking somewhere deeper? Anxiety twisted in her stomach, but she couldn't let it show. She had fought to reclaim her music, to break the hold of shadows over her life. This was her moment. The crowd began to disperse, holding on to that feeling of victory. Mia could feel warmth suffusing through her, their shared energy lifting the spirits high. She stood up from the piano, looking back at the scene, the instrument that had anchored her through fear, that whispered her innermost thoughts. It had become a powerful force against the shadows, but it had also revealed something more, her strength and the connections forged through shared struggles. "Thank you," she murmured to the piano, drawing a deep breath. As the last few people trickled away, Mia realized she was no longer just a girl with a talent. She was a young woman who had faced true darkness and emerged stronger. Her music had become a light, guiding her and the crowd through the night. With the first rays of dawn peeking through the skyline, she turned away from the piano, heart resolute. Whatever lay ahead, more shadows, more trials, she would be ready for it. They had fought and won, and no darkness could snuff out her light. A soft breeze enveloped her, a gentle reminder of resilience and hope. Mia walked away from the corner where the shadows had once lurked, carrying the melody within her, ready to face whatever came next. And in the quietude of that dawn, she knew that every note she played from this moment forward would be an anthem against the darkness, a music that would tell her story. Don't forget to subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this incredible ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.